Welcome to our, I guess we could call this our holiday break senior retreat. You excited about the holiday break? Yeah. Me too. Okay, me too. A few items prior to getting there. All right, scheduling. I know you guys have a lot of questions about your schedules. I had 3 people stop me on the way in. All right, hey, when's my schedule going to be updated for second semester? Okay, probably by January 4th. We have all your requests as seniors. Okay, our goal is to give you all your top choices. Okay, but also we have to go through each selection to ensure that you're on track for graduation. You're all in really good shape. You just got to finish strong second semester, which is usually a challenge for seniors, but I don't think it will be with this group. Okay. All right? Yeah. Okay. All right, and also with that NCAA requirements. All right, hang on, guys. You students, okay, who are looking to play college sport, okay, you still have some work to do. Specifically in English, everybody needs to finish English, so that's across the board. All right, so Ms. Walsworth has you at this email. Okay, I'm going to now turn, one last thing. When we leave here this morning, we have a special holiday lunch for y'all. Okay? We heard you loud and clear. All right? Feed you and you will be happy. All right? So we're going to feed you today. All right? But before we have some work to do. All right? We're excited about today's program, and I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Walsworth, who'll take it from here.
Thank you. Good morning. Before we get to our main event today, you get to hear from a peer today. Jason is going to come talk to you a little bit about the senior gift and the legacy you're leaving behind.
Class of 2022. Today, I came to tell you about our senior gift. And some of you may be wondering, what is a senior gift? If you've ever passed the fountain out front, you might have seen the plaque that says, from class of 2012. We now have the opportunity to leave our legacy on this campus and give back to the school. A committee of students from our class have been meeting, and we felt like giving a gift to the new Innovation Center would be a great idea. We have a few options on what this gift will look like, and we hope to present it to the school by the end of the school year. Our first fundraisers have been the candy grams that we've been giving to the middle schoolers, but today, outside the student center, the upper schoolers can purchase it for $1. All funds raised will go to this gift. Next semester, we'd like to do a car wash, and we need as many volunteers as possible, and we do it next semester. It's only right we leave our mark on Mount Bird as the best class of Mount Bird. So stay tuned for more updates, and I'll be seeing you again.
All right. So, if you have me for class, you know that one of the reasons I absolutely love teaching seniors is because you're in such a transitional year. You're trying to become independent adults. You're having a lot of decisions in front of you that you have to make and trying to make the right decisions for you. And one of the ways to think about making that next right choice for yourself is considering what your core values are and how those core values can be reflected in the choices that you're making and the moving forward that you're about to do. So today's seminar is about core values, and when we started thinking about having a businessman from the community come in and talk about the importance of core values as a driving force in their lives, our minds went right to Mr. Tentomas, right to him. Now you can Google John Tentomas and you'll learn everything about him right now. That's easy. But how did he get to where he is now? How did he get from where you are now to where he is now? And that's what he's going to talk to you about today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you John Tentomas.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Am I working? Good. Well, I see in 40 years since I've been in high school, things haven't changed. The front seats don't fill up. When you're my age, you pay big money to sit in the front, right? But in any event. But anyways, here I am, John Tentomas. Pleasure to be here. Christine, thank you so much for inviting me here today. I'm going to talk to you about a job, I guess, if you want to call it that I started about 17 years ago. It's a job that makes a 24-hour day to a 40-hour day. It's a job that's 7 days a week, at least in my mind. It occupies my mind 7 days a week. Probably never taken a holiday, at least my mind hasn't, ever. It's a job that I have to switch on and off between work, family, and fun. Does that sound like fun? Would you want to do that? I would not have it any other way. You see, but why, John? Why would you want it that way? Let me explain. So, a lot of people, I'm sure you know, either you have successful businessmen in your lives, maybe your father's one, your mother's one. You know of a lot of them. And a lot of people say, are successful business people, are they born that way? And a lot of people think, yeah, they are. They must be. How can they possibly want to do that? That's sort of accepting all those, the kind of lifestyle that I just explained to you before. So what is it? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is there an entrepreneurial gene that we all have, that we're born with, to do it? According to the Respectable Founders Institute, which is an institute that studies entrepreneurs, they say entrepreneurs have high fluid intelligence. They have high openness. They have moderate agreeableness. If I were to read that, I'd say, what the hell are they talking about? You know, what does that mean? So, next slide. So, let's try to break that down a little bit. Let's do that. What does high fluid intelligence mean? It means the ability to think flexibly and to understand abstract relations. Well, that's not necessarily something that comes naturally to everybody, right? But I'll talk a little bit more about that. That is a characteristic that if you have a passion for something, whether it be a sport, science, literature, the arts, you actually develop that, if you think about it, right? You really focus in on that passion. You develop it over time. High openness, being creative and open to new ideas. I think obviously when we're young, we definitely have an open mind to lots of things, right? So typically, to be a great entrepreneur, you notice a lot of them start young. They really do. Well, moderate agreeableness. Moderately warm, friendly, and tactful. I guess that means you can't be too warm, too friendly, or too tactful. It also means you can't be a bad person. So you just gotta be in between. So if you think about it, do all of us sort of fall into those characteristics if we have a passion? And can we do the other two things? I think so. I really do. Next slide. So, my opinion, my experience, is that it's actually nature and nurture. By knowing your nature, your core values, who you are as a person, and nurturing your passion, I believe anyone can become a successful entrepreneur. The only nature advantage is if you're born in an environment where you're forced to become resilient. And that's a very big word in becoming an entrepreneur. This world called resilience, okay? Resilience is how we call it tough you are in handling things coming your way. Some of us are born in an environment that forces us to become resilient. And I'm going to give you some really good examples. Next slide. When we look at core values, what are they for me, John Tentomas? Integrity. That's extremely important for me. Ever since I was a child, things had to make sense for me. It had to be just. It had to be right. Trust. I had to have trust. I gave it, and I also wanted to receive it as well. And of course, resilience. I'll show you I didn't have much of a choice. It was part of who I am. So these three are my core values, and today they carry through with me all the way to who I am today in my business and also in my personal life. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about some famous entrepreneurs that you guys know, right? Let's talk about resilience, because this is a very important part. Not only in entrepreneurs, I have to say, but if you're thinking about as a core value of who you are going to be later in life, if you're going to be a professional athlete, if you're going to be a top scientist, a top artist, you are going to go through a lot of ups and downs in your career. I guarantee you. How do you bounce back from those is key. So you've heard a lot of expressions in life, mental toughness, you name it, but this is big. Let's talk about probably one of the most famous entrepreneurs that we all recognize today, Elon Musk, right? Musk's mother, May Musk, is a Canadian model and the oldest woman to star in a CoverGirl campaign. When Musk was growing up, she worked 5 jobs at one point to support her family. Musk spent his early childhood with his brother, Kimball, and his sister Tosta in South Africa. His parents divorced when he was 10. Do you think he was born to become resilient in the environment that he was born in? Huh? He had to be, no choice. Right? Next. Another guy, Steve Jobs. Jobs had difficulty functioning in a traditional classroom. He tended to resist authority figures, frequently misbehaved, and was suspended a few times. Clara, his mother, had taught him to read as a toddler, and Jobs stated that he was pretty bored in school and had turned into a little terror. You should have seen us in the 3rd grade. We basically destroyed the teacher. It is believed that Steve Jobs had Asperger's syndrome. You think he was brought up to be resilient? Everybody's read his biography. He's had a pretty up and down life. Definitely. Right? At the time he was a little boy. Next. Probably the richest man in the world in today's dollar figures. Ever hear of John D. Rockefeller? You've probably heard this name before. Right? John D. Rockefeller was an American industrialist philanthropist, the most generous philanthropist to this day. A businessman who is known as one of the richest people in modern history. In today's dollars, $400 billion. He was born John Davidson Rockefeller in July of 1839. His father was a con artist. He was extremely poor, right? He had an older sister and younger brothers, and he did chores and earned extra money by selling candy and potatoes and raising turkeys. Do you think John was born to become resilient? I think so, right? So you see how some people are born with a natural ability to become resilient because they don't have a choice. Some people, in those kinds of environments, they stray in negative paths. Some people choose to take it differently. And when they do, they have a head start. Okay? Next slide. The not so famous me. I was born to a Greek immigrant parents that came with $10 in their pocket in Canada in 1971. I was raised in a very unstable home, not knowing if my parents would last a year without separating. After 26 years, they finally decided to divorce. I went to a very, very tough high school that was considered an immigrant ghetto in Montreal. 2 of my close childhood friends became drug addicts. My best friend and I never even touched a cigarette. I graduated top 3 in my class in high school. I completed my chemical engineering degree at McGill University, which was considered one of the best colleges in Canada. I was a good baseball player and a football player. I was never as good as Pavlos in sports or in school, but I was better looking. Bro. Thanks, Lon. Sorry, Franco. I had to do that. I had to embarrass you a little bit. Now for the fun part. All right. So, what did I master? What did I do? Obviously, you saw my background. I was always uncomfortable, guys. Let's be honest. I was never in a stable situation, ever. So I had to become resilient naturally. So this was my fate. I had no problem with it, right? So what did I do? In 1993, when I was in chemical engineering, I was in a class. It's called process modeling. The teacher asked us, either you could write a mini thesis to get a mark, or you could join a competition where you had to design a process to recycle automotive instrument panels back in the 90s, which was a big deal. Me and another student out of a class of 200 were the only ones that volunteered. Because it was hard. It was a lot easier to write a thesis. We ended up winning the entire North American competition with some of the top schools, including schools like Harvard, MIT, Yale, etc., in North America. Right? Adversity. I was a B student in engineering. I didn't have the academic background in high school. I came from a ghetto school. I always had to work my butt off. But the resilience and the grit allowed me to win. So if anybody tells you you're not talented enough, I don't accept that. Don't. It's how much do you want it, right? Next, I joined Dow Chemical. I was one of 3 in all of Canada. It was a recessionary year. They weren't hiring anybody, but they hired 3, and I was one of them. Why? Because I decided to do that North American challenge. Remember, I was a B student. If I went just with my marks alone, they never would have even seen me. But because I did that, they liked it. I was the youngest executive in '96 to get transferred to the US from Canada. And then I just left it in '98. I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And the reason I wasn't feeling fulfilled was because it wasn't satisfying my core values. And the integrity and the trust was a big part of it. Because you see, in large organizations, there's a lot of different layers, as you can imagine, right? And when it came to trust and integrity, it's never that pure in those organizations. My value system, like I said, is pretty pure when it comes to trust and integrity. And I felt that was getting diluted in some of these large organizations. So I needed to do something that was a lot more in control for myself. So in 2000, I literally went into business for myself. I opened up sports bars, I did FX hedging, I got into the restaurant business. I opened some, I closed some, I still have some. Literally went nuts in business. Just to discover it. It was a time to do it. I was in my late 20s. I had no kids, freshly married. Took a risk. Remember, I was uncomfortable the whole time. I had no problem with it. I closed 3 of them, then I joined the frozen fruit trading company as a general manager. In 2004, college was born. Trust me, that's ignition. That's motivation when you have a child. And I started Nature's Touch in the basement of my home. At the same time, I started a seafood trading company where in 2004, I literally went online, I scoured a list of databases of potential buyers of seafood globally, and I scoured a list of potential suppliers, I got their emails, and I just sent them requests for offers and for buys. And I just linked them together. And I was a broker overnight. And I was able to make 1 deal at a time. And after 2 years of doing that, I was able to make about $300,000 just on the seafood trade. And at the same time, I kept Nature's Touch going. Now you say, John, you're doing so well with seafood trading. Why did you still keep Nature's Touch? I didn't take a salary from Nature's Touch for 5 years. Because I kept the money in the company the whole time. Because Nature's Touch was part of my core values. I was supplying fruit from all over the world. I was helping farmers, some of the poorest countries in the world, bring that fruit from North America and giving it to consumers. That I identified with. The seafood, I didn't even see it. It was just a means to an end. But I was making $300,000 a year. Today, I don't have a seafood business anymore. Could have. Lived a very good life just trading seafood. Core values. Okay? 2005, sold my first pallets of strawberries to Costco. Hand-packed by me alone, so trade seafood during the day, was making good money, and I figured out how to put my strawberries in a bag through a third-party cold storage at night. So I wasn't afraid to work. I was an executive at Dow Chemical in the United States of America, making a lot of money, cars paid. I was going to football games, center row. I was doing it all. And trust me, I was asking myself, what the hell am I doing here? Lots of times. And you will. Next. Next son was born. We opened our U.S. division. In 2014, we opened up our home office. In 2016, I made the biggest investment of my life. It was a $20 million project in Vancouver on April 14th, 2016. On April 15th, 2016, the government of Canada calls me and says, John, there's a problem with your product. You have to recall your product because it's tainted. The day after, I made the biggest investment of my life. I get a recall. It's crazy. What do? We were supposed to go on holiday on that 15th of April with my family. Canceled everything. Had to handle the recall. If I told you, again, core values, integrity and trust, my customer, because of my trust and my integrity, they trusted me. We ended up selling more fruit that year to that customer than the year before. That customer is still a customer with me today. I haven't lost one customer at Nature's Touch since I started the company because of my core values. Okay? Who are you? And translate that to your job. If you do that, you can't lose. If you do that, it doesn't feel like a job at the end of the day. It feels like life, right? Continue. As we go down, today, 2019, we're considered, and we still are, the largest organic frozen fruit buyer in the world. We have some of the biggest impact in the world of converting conventional land to organic land. So we're making an impact, huge impact as a company. 80% of all frozen fruit consumed in Canada, we supply. We are the #2 frozen fruit supplier in the USA today. And we just announced a massive expansion in Virginia. Last week, I had to fire my CEO, my CFO, and my chief customer officer. Last week. I just flew in last night to do this presentation. I'm flying back to Montreal on Monday. Why? They were not representing my core values at Nature's Touch. My people were thrilled with the decision. So I flattened the organization, and I'm presenting myself to my vice presidents every single day. And that's what it is. That's my journey, guys, at the end of the day. Next. So, back to the core values. Resiliency is universally accepted as a key element in entrepreneurship. Continuously challenge yourself to be uncomfortable is key. You cannot be resilient long term if you do not have some type of support at home or really close relationships. This is for sure. You can't do this without having a family or some really close relationships that can support you. There has to be a reason why you feel you need to do this. Right? It's not about you. My fuel is my family. My biggest fan is my wife. If I didn't have her, I could never do this. All right? So choose well. Support. Trust and integrity are not universal concepts in entrepreneurship, guys. All right? They're not. We know a lot of pretty bad business people that do unethical things every day. But I can tell you, like I told you in my Costco recall example, if I didn't have their trust or their integrity, I would not be here today. I would have lost that customer and I would have lost others. So if you want to be successful in anything you do, not only in entrepreneurship, I cannot tell you the value of trust and integrity. Your name is important. How you conduct yourself is important. Next slide. So, my question to you is, what are you going to do today to be uncomfortable? Any questions? Really, honestly, any questions for anybody?
Don't pass up this opportunity, guys. Ask questions.
Please.
I know they're ready to eat lunch, but when I looked at your PowerPoint the other day, that last thing that last week you fired all of your highest level administrators. Can you just talk more about that? Because that has to be, that for me would be a terrifying thing to do.
Oh yeah, it was. It was, but you know, the funny thing is that, and I was actually on Thanksgiving holiday with the family, and obviously it was going through my mind, and I even asked the boys, and they gave their opinion. And when we were talking about it, ultimately, I felt like we were losing control of our company. And when we say control, it's not that we're like control freaks. We were moving away from our core values. And so our customers and our consumers understand our core values very well. And we're far from being in trouble. But once you start getting a hint, it doesn't take long for you to get into trouble. So as soon as you see yourself stray, you gotta be decisive. And you know what the really great thing is that as nervous as I was at how the people would react to it, a week of managing that transition, we actually turned out to be stronger as a company because of it. It was so welcome, that change. It was incredible. So people are stepping up to fill those voids now, those sea levels. So decisiveness is not bad as long as it goes back to the core values. People understand it.
Hey.
Question.
Go ahead.
You don't see that angle, for example, you in restaurants, it's a work taking that out, there's so much time in
Great question. You know, I always gave myself 3 years in any project that I did. Because, you know, 1 year is not, you don't know. You got to give something a chance to sort of set. And because as much as you think you may come up with 1,000 theories why this works or what doesn't, there's so much noise in the first year when you start anything. There's no way of you knowing what's real and what's not real. So my rule of thumb is in 3 years, if you're not happy with the outcomes, you move on. Make sense? Any other questions?
If you could use one word to describe your whole journey, entrepreneurship, what would it be?
Fascinating. Totally fascinating. I look at it as a human nature journey. That's why it's life for me. It's not a job.
Steve, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
What did you do at your lowest when you had fired the people when you got that recall?
That's the lowest right there. The worst thing that ever happened to me in my career is when I heard people got sick eating my products. I had to accept the fact that it was beyond my control, right? And trust me, we've done a hell of a lot to prevent it from happening again. What did I do? it took me, I still haven't recovered, to be honest with you. I mean, you can't, it's a scar that you sort of always have on your thing. But what I did is I promised myself to fix it, not only for myself, but to try to fix it for society, to make sure it doesn't happen again, to make it safer for everybody. So when something bad happens, I believe if you create a purpose so that you make it better for others for the future, I think that's an honorable way of addressing it. And it makes you sort of feel better about doing it as well. Make sense? Well,
Over here.
yeah.
Yeah. When you found out that you're having your first kid, like, what changed for you? How did that?
Oh, man. So it honestly, it sort of didn't make, when you have a child, and I think every parent can say this, you know, life is sort of, you're looking at everything, right? Before you have a kid, when you have a kid, it's only about the child. So it's not about me anymore. So then doing all that becomes a lot easier. Make sense?
What was like your motivation?
Oh, I'm called the ignition, the fire. Right? So, you know, families and having a family, a unit, and making this kind of stuff, it works. It gives you purpose beyond just who you are. Right? So doing it for others is a big part of this thing, for sure. And again, integrity, trust, connections. I was in the chemical industry first, and when I was exploring my options, I had a lawyer friend who obviously had a lot of respect for who I was and what I was capable of. And it just happened that that general manager position in the frozen food industry came up, and my qualifications in commodities, chemical commodities, translated well to food, frozen fruit commodities. So you see, it doesn't matter. Did I think I was going to be a frozen fruit guy when I was in college? No, not at all. That's why your journey is not predetermined today, guys. It's who you are and how you carry yourself after that makes the most difference, right? You're getting, these are your tools, but your core values are probably going to determine much more of how you're going to end up being and where you're going to end up going in your life. Trust me.
I just want to once again thank you, Mr. Tentomas. Let's hear it for him one more time. Just one follow-up, you know, he mentioned the whole aspect of choose well, and I love that, you know, choose well, your family, choose well, your next step, but also what I love about you all, and today was a testimony of it. I've been in 6 different schools throughout my career, and I've never seen the respect that you all afford somebody who comes in to speak. And I have a great appreciation for that. And to me, that tells me that you all are preparing to be chosen well. And that's important. And that's what you have control over. You prepare to be chosen, whether it's for the next job, whether it's to be a spouse, whether it's, you're preparing yourselves. And that's a testimony to y'all. Today was a testimony to y'all. So the last thing I have, unless Mr. Wadsworth has anything, let's prepare to be fed. Okay? So we're going to go to the students.